Hello and welcome. You are watching the Nordic Takedown. We're making our first ever live pod from GothCon. We are placed in a room far from every other card game, so I'm not sure anyone will find their way here. With me today, my name is Victor, and with me today I have Gustav.
Hello.
And Jakob.
Hello, everyone.
I'm really excited to see that we can probably get this working either way. We might get some people in the chat to interact with us, even if we won't get too much of an audience helping us out, maybe. We have an agenda for today. Let me get that up. Our agenda today have two topics. Do you remember when I'm trying to get it up here? This is the first time we go live like this, so we're not used.
We're also raising the threshold by me bringing my 2.5-year-old kid to the live pod.
That will make it more exciting for everyone.
We'll see how long my participation is going to be on this pod.
It depends on the stamina, I suppose, of everyone involved. Let me see. Where do we put?
Can we see the chat? No, we cannot see that.
It will pop up here. Yeah.
Oh,
we
that's
will.
good.
We will
Okay.
be able to see the chat.
So
for
I
sure,
hope somebody will let us know if we have any issues.
Yes, hopefully someone will. So we will be talking about the first year of SVU because we have at this point managed to do pretty much exactly 1 year. My first pre-release was actually last year at GothCon because I missed my own local pre-releases. So I had pre-releases here, and I know you and me were chasing cards all over the place.
Yeah, we were. we were buying loose packs from some Polish shop here as well.
Yeah.
And I do remember I was watching you together with a shared friend, Daniel and Linus.
Yes.
You were doing some random casual games in the corridors as well. So I think that was my first real interaction with the game. I had opened some packs and so on, but yeah, this is the 1 year anniversary for me for actually seeing the game as well.
Yeah, we might get into a little bit of spoilers for the new set because looking forward is always fun. And then we will transition into talking about the community building aspect of this game, where and how and what the community is really like and what it takes to make a good community and what we hope to see in the next coming year. So that is our show today. But before we get into all that, let's do a little bit of a Cantina catch-up because it's been a little while since you guys were on the pod. What have you been up to in your SVU lives? Gustav?
Yeah, so where we're at today are GothCon, which is what would you call it, board game?
Convention?
Convention.
All things game convention, I think.
All things game convention. And we played Star Wars Unlimited all day yesterday. So we played 1 sealed and 2 drafts. That's pretty much what I've been playing. But before we started recording, we also had a demo of Twin Suns. And it's the second time I played Twin Suns, but it's amazing. It's so much fun to play.
Yeah, I think that format has a lot of future in the game.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the most fun ways to play the game. What have you been up to, Jakob?
Well, it's just been a week since we saw each other, even if we live across the country from each other.
Yep.
At the Cantina Roll.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing. Obviously, every other Wednesday is draft in Gothenburg, so I tried to participate. I missed out on the last one last week, but managed to do the Cantina Roll, and that was, like always, Skövde is a great place.
Awesome place. When we talk about community building, that's definitely something we're going to talk more about.
It's a super nice shop, great community. Shop owners are
amazing,
so nice. And then the tournament itself was a slightly smaller one than the Cantina Brawl 2, which I was at in November as well, I believe, or December. But still, pricing was even better, I think. It's very top-heavy, but it was loads of Carbonite stuff for top 8.
And you did make top 8.
I managed to sneak my way into top 8. It was a really weird Swiss because they really wanted to do a top 8 even though we were only 32 players. And so we did 5 rounds of Swiss and then the top 8.
Yeah.
Which meant that after 3 rounds of Swiss, there were essentially 4 players who could intentionally draw themselves into the top 8.
Yeah.
So it was a very weird standings going into the top 8 because I was placed 7th before the last round of Swiss, and I played the 8th placed Kevin. And before that last round of Swiss, we saw that we could intentionally draw
and get in,
and I could get in, but he needed then for the 9th place to lose their game to also make the top 8. So he didn't want to intentionally draw.
Of course.
But he won. It was a Sabine ECL mirror match.
Yeah.
So he won on last round, last action lethal. It was a really, really good best of 3. And then basically, we're going to keep this short, but basically because he won, I lost, but the 9th place also lost. So I placed 8th, but he placed King of Swiss.
Yeah.
Because everybody else drew.
Yeah.
So I played him in the top 8 again.
Yeah. And these were
super weird.
2 Sabine mirrors in row. And we cast the Cantina Brawl, but we didn't cast that game of the Cantina Brawl. But those were some of the longest taking Sabine mirrors ever. They almost went to time. I know the other caster, Jason, was baffled. The Sabine mirror still going on? I was like, yeah, no, it's Jacob. It's going to take a little while.
I'm not intentionally slow player.
No,
it's
you're
just
not.
it was somebody said that it was last match in that top 8. We were so close to both winning. I had already played a Poe, but I was activating Poe, and then I was going to discard a card to deal 2 damage. I had 3 cards in hand, and my friend who was sitting next to me, he was saying afterwards, that was the deepest think tank I have ever seen somebody do on a Poe Dam run. Because I was probably sitting there for a good 2 minutes.
Yeah.
This card, no. This can be useful. No, this card. No. So I'm sorry, everyone, but we didn't go to time. It was just taking 45 minutes instead of 15.
Yeah. No, and Kevin was so weirded out by it because he knew you were quite new to Sabine. So
he was asking me beforehand, how long have you played Sabine? And I was saying 48 hours.
so he thought like, all right, this is going to be fast. He's going to go face all the time. I'm going to win it easy. And he just didn't know you.
He was saying, I'm going to retire. This is too much. It was really good. I had loads of fun. That was a summer race for me in Skövde. It was.
I think even
really
Kevin
good.
Actually agreed afterwards that there was some of the funnest Sabine mirrors he's ever played. So
that's good to hear.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
Yeah, me.
Victor?
I went to Skövde as well. I did not do as well as you. I did some really nasty play mistakes that I'm going to regret my life. I had basically every game I was in, but I lost 2 of them because I just screwed up. It happens. Apart from that, we've been organizing this and trying to get everything right for this. Also, I'm working on a video for the YouTube channel that's taking up. I've got something really cool coming up for the YouTube video, and it'll take a couple of weeks more before it's fun. But it's a good, fun little project I'm working on. So yeah, I'll get back to that some other time. Not there. Right, let's move it on. Let's talk a little bit about this first year of SVU. Like, Gustav, when did you get in contact with SVU?
So I played a precursor game, Star Wars Destiny. And since that game was canceled, I've been just itching for another Star Wars card game. So when they announced it, was like, yeah, I'm going to buy this.
No brainer.
Yeah, no brainer. And then like how it moved on was that we were a lot of Star Wars Destiny player in Gothenburg, but like none of them showed up in the forums, Facebook or Discord.
Ooh.
Really didn't know how it was gonna look, and my old friends were very iffy about getting in because of Star Wars Destiny getting cancelled.
Yeah,
and it's like, do we want to get into a game that will get cancelled? We want to wait a bit more.
Might be, yeah.
So yeah, that's basically how it went. But I'm also curious how you guys found the game, because I don't know if you haven't played Star Wars Destiny, right?
No, the only experience I have with Destiny was that I bought a display for my brother-in-law for Christmas one time, and so I bought I think it was Rey and Kylo starter decks or something, and then a display, and then we basically played for one Christmas. But I never had a community. I didn't join I was living in Stockholm by then. I didn't join that community to do that. So for me, it was, well, basically I know Victor from when we played the Game of Thrones card game, and I haven't been playing anything competitively since then. And then this came, and it sort of was scratching that itch as well, because I know it's Fantasy Flight with both the positives and the negatives of that. But I do know that when I saw that Danny Schaefer was the lead designer of it, who was taking over lead design of Game of Thrones when they did the second edition, and that was his first lead design job. And I know that there were some flaws with that.
Sure.
But he was also he was my contact when I got to design cards for the game. And I know, so I knew the process, and we have been playtesting the game, so been in contact with the design team.
Yeah.
So even though we can argue about how the design is going for SWU, I have very high respect for the design team at Fantasy Flight because of their ideas and their balls to actually just do what they like.
Yeah.
They're not afraid of actually they're doing what they think is right. They're not wizard. They don't have those resources.
And they don't have the experience.
For what they have, I do like it. So that's a little bit of my history of going in, and then obviously stumbling upon some old friends actually picking up the game made it easier for me to just say, I'm going to pick up the game as well.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, no, I haven't found a card game yet that I haven't thought was worth trying out.
Yeah.
And I was, when I heard the first pitch for Star Wars Unlimited and looked at the rules for it, I was like, yeah, doesn't look that involved. It looks fairly straightforward and kind of childish. And I thought maybe it was going to play like Pokemon or something quite simplistic, I think. And so I wasn't super excited, but obviously when my local game shop asked me if I wanted to buy a box to try it out, I said, of course I'm going to try it out. What do you think? We meet every week. You know me. Of course I am going to. And I did. And after that first little testing with my friends, especially Tim, who's always my testing partner, we both realized very fast that this game has so much more to it than what you see at the surface. Now, I couldn't agree more about your sentiments about FFG. A lot of people are very sort of negative and down on FFG because of the way a lot of their all their card games, except for the cooperative games, all of the other games have eventually been put down. They've
died dramatically,
dramatically,
in very bad manners.
Some of them, but most of them have fizzled out, in a way. But I think for me, I've played most of them more or less competitively. For me, it's always been like, I was sad when they had Netrunner and Thrones and Star Wars LCG, when they put all those games to the side. I got sad, but then it's easy to remember how much fun I had with them. FFG has been able to make some of the best card games I've ever played. Some of the best designs I've ever played. They haven't always been perfect at managing those games, but I think I've always seen how they've improved. For each game they've made, they've learned and they've improved. And like you said, I have a lot of faith in the design team, not because I think they're the most experienced at every part of this, but because I know that they're willing to learn, that they're willing to listen, and that they're improving. All of the time, they're improving. They might not have the professionality of Wizard, but Wizard is screwing up all the time. Even the most experienced companies do screw up all the time. And I can't see how we could hold this design team to a higher standard. And what what is different for me, especially this time around, is how quickly they respond, how open they've been, how easy they've been to contact and have a conversation with, and that to me is worth a lot. And okay, maybe this game won't last as long as Magic. Most likely it won't. Very few games have, or none. But if it lasts me, 5 years?
Yeah.
Like Netrunner lasted 6-7 years. If I get 5 years of fun, who am I to complain? That's awesome.
And you bring up a point where you're reminding me of where I actually met up with you in a pizzeria outside of Stockholm when I was there for work before last summer. Before I'd actually really jumped into the game.
Mm-hmm.
What I'd done throughout the pandemic is that all of these new card games that popped up, like Lorcana, Flesh and Blood, Altered, and all of these, I'd actually pre-ordered a box of them before they came out, just to be like, this might be for me.
Yeah.
And then most of them I didn't open, and I just sold them to somebody else. So I had all of these, but for SWU, I had a box and I had some cards, and then we met up, and then I complained a little bit to you, Victor, and I said, well, this is the first time that FFG does something that actually is going to cost me a lot of money, right? Like, because if I want to play, I'm probably going to have to buy the Lukes and the Vaders.
Yeah.
And I'm not used to that when it comes to FFG.
No.
Because those cost more money than, with Thrones, I could buy any pack for a fixed price, and none of the cards were rarer than others.
No, yeah.
And that really resonated with a grown-up scene and a mature competitive scene to me. So with that, I just wanted to say that you told me one thing that has kept someone like me who is not used to TCGs actually involved. And that is like, well, how much money do you actually put into it if you compare to other things that you would enjoy?
Yeah.
Like, how much does it cost nowadays to go to the cinema?
Mm-hmm.
How much does it cost for any type of hobby that you have that costs a little bit of money?
Yeah.
Compare it to just doing SWU. It's like,
it's not that expensive.
It's not. And it's not for the value of what you do with the friends that you meet. I've never would have met Gustav. I would have met you anyway, but there's so many new players and people that you play. That's just, of course it's worth the money.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of my, I don't know, something that's lifted off my shoulders this past year is that.
Yeah. No, yeah. You can decide how much money you want to put into the game.
And you can borrow cards.
You can borrow cards. You have so much freedom to decide how expensive this hobby is going to be for you, and the amount you put in, and then you can decide how much you get out of it, and you can get so much out of it. So if you look at this year that's passed, if you were to bring up like 3 highlights from what you've got from this game over this year, what would be 3 things that you'd say these are 3 highlights from my gaming experience of SWU this year?
3 highlights. So I think like one of the highlights is the first competition I went to, which was the Cantina Brawl #1.
Yep.
And it's just meeting all these nice people, nerding around about the game, playing, having fun. It's such a good and the store, as you said, is amazing.
Yeah. And back then it was in the bank vault, right?
Yeah, it's the bank vault.
So it was not as nice as it is now.
You cannot put me on the spot here, but I also have to say, like the Set 3 Showdown was the first constructed tournament that I ever won, and that was super fun. And like that was the first goal I set up for myself. Like, if I want to get into competitive play, I need to like take baby steps, do like goals, tiny goals, then go to bigger goals. And the first goal was Takedown Showdown. So Set 1 I came top 4, and then I top 4'd I think 2 showdowns in Set 2, and then finally Set 3 I won back-to-back store showdowns as well.
Yeah, that was impressive.
Yeah,
to say the least.
Yeah, no, you have done well for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
In the casual sense, at least. And then like it's almost the same as the Cantina Brawl, but my first PQ also, when traveling to Copenhagen and meeting even more people, just playing there and like when we finished the Swiss, I think I went 3-3, so I was out from the top 8. But then just me and some other guys was like, "Are we gonna play some draft?" Yeah, we'll play some draft.
Yeah.
And the store was like, "Oh, you're gonna play draft," and then they give us a lot of like, use these prizes, some extra cards, have fun with it. So we played a set 3 draft, and then it was like, "Do we need to even sleeve these cards?"
Yeah.
Nah, we're not going it. And just everyone just talking like, "Oh, what are these cards? This is what I'm gonna build with these." Just banter during the whole drafting session, and then also playing with them. Amazing.
Yeah.
So good.
No, yeah. How about you?
Yeah, and I think just to, reiterate what I said earlier is that one of the best things for me is that it's started to scratch that itch again. Of I really like the deck building. That's one thing that's really resonates with me. Trying to find these. Not the combos, but the interactions between different cards and tempo playing and finding lines and trying to make things good that other people say are not good. That's something that is really something that triggers me. So even though we don't need to go into the Django discussion, but that it's something happens in me when the majority of the people say, before we even get a chance to try to find a solution, people say we can't do this because it's broken. And we don't need to discuss it more. I just say that resonates with me. That's something that
you want to try.
I get triggered by that, and I really like to explore the areas of where can I find. I would have loved to be the Bosk Blue player, for example, that won the sector in the UK.
Was it Liverpool, yeah.
Because obviously you need stamina to do that throughout the day. You also need some luck, and apparently he had some luck going through. But the way that you're solving the problem with bringing something else and then showing competitiveness in that, that is so nice. That is such a good feeling. Yeah. So that's one thing. The other thing is that I really need to give a shout out to Gustav and the team and the players in Gothenburg, because there's every other Wednesday there's draft here in Gothenburg, and I try as much as I can, even though it's a little bit of a trip to do that, and there's some logistics to getting to do that. It makes this game alive for me, even in the dwellings of a set where you're kind of feeling that, right, there's 6 or 8 weeks to the next tournament, or maybe you're not even getting the chance to do a tournament in this set. I really like where FFG have put drafts in the sets, where they've really succeeded in terms of that. So that's been a highlight for me, finding draft as the best, maybe the best format, actually. I really like that. So you're getting 2 from me. Those are 2 things that I really enjoy.
All right.
What about you, Victor?
Yeah, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to bring up a multiple one here first. So for me, there's so many layers to this, but one of the absolute highlights of this game was definitely when I went down to Malmö and played in SWU Open in Malmö with you guys, with my other friend Jakob from Uppsala, and you and Jakob had been working on that Boba Green deck that wasn't actually in vogue at that point. You've been working real hard, and I hadn't been prepping my decks as well as I should, but I went down there and I kind of knew I probably wasn't going to make day 2. So I'd seen that these guys at the Nordic Takedown, they were like, oh, we would, if someone could help us out with casting the second day, maybe someone can drop out or fall out. Is there anyone that would be willing to help us out? And I had been streaming a lot with Game of Thrones. Me and Andreas Aldrin, who was one of the really top players in Sweden at that game, we did almost weekly or monthly casts from online play for a while there with the Champions of Westeros League, and we were streaming games quite often with that, and sometimes we did this big tournament down in Varberg, which I streamed often together with a really crazy Irish guy called Ben, whom I'm also trying to get into through here because he's just the most fun guy. But anyway, so I had a little bit of background in streaming, and I was like, sure, I'll probably not make day 2. I could probably help you stream. And I hadn't met any of these people. I hadn't met Jason. I hadn't met Adam. I had actually met playing Thrones, but only briefly, and never Jonah or any of the others. So it was like this Malmö tournament was so well run. It was still the biggest tournament in Scandinavia. No tournament have been as large as that one, and players from all over Scandinavia, mostly Sweden and Denmark, but Norway, and like there were lots of people there, lots of friendly faces and a ton of new faces, and just that feeling. And we used to travel a lot for games and go to Germany and play and everywhere, and just that feeling of coming into a space where some people, but most people are actually new faces for you, but everyone is there for the same reason. And the atmosphere is just so warm. Like, not to say that other games don't have that, but we have it in spades. Like, the community aspect of this game is so great, so you have such a good time when you sit down. And obviously I didn't do enough I was going 4-2, I think, or something like that. 4-3. I had a decent record, but not enough to make day 2. So I just joined Jason for the stream, and I had such a blast. I love streaming.
And a lot of people who don't know you directly, but who you've been talking to, I've been talking to, and they say things like, because nobody in the scene that didn't know you before knew you, obviously, but then like especially there was a couple of people here in Gothenburg who were saying, yeah, on the Malmö stream, it's like it was good, it was pretty good, it was pretty great, but then on day 2 there was this guy who came in, and he just the level of knowledge on that stream just through the roof. It's like he was not commenting on the things that was happening. He was commenting on things that was supposed to happen in the next round, potentially. So, I mean, I think credit where credit's due. Victor is if you haven't, why are you watching this channel? Of course you know Victor. Yeah.
Well, I had a blast. It was so fun. And I think that was, it was a big thing for me, and it was a big thing for Nordic Takedown, not just for me, but for that stream. I did not put that stream together. I just joined in the last seconds of it and had a lot of fun. But like I got involved with these guys, and I love these guys. We as a community have grown so much since we've had you guys join up as hangarounds and helpers, and we've got a pretty good crew now. I think we have a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's impressive to see the Cantina Brawl where most of the crew was actually on site to play.
Yeah,
and even then you had 2 friends of the podcast do the full stream without any involvement of actually the crew.
Any of us in the crew.
So that's impressive. That says something about what this community is,
isn't it? That's just it. You can just talk to. There's no rivalry. Like that's also. If I had to bring up another thing, like I'm supposed to do 3, I'm probably just doing 2 of my as well. But when we locked in for set 3 PQs, we got in touch with all the stores that were doing PQs in Scandinavia, and everyone agreed to have us stream them, which was super cool. So we started planning for that, and I started reaching out to see if because Jonah actually reached out to Thork for the Cantina Brawl 2 and had him and the Swoop Racers join in for the cast, and that was like such a cool thing. So I thought we need to start trying to do that and reach out to other streamers and other content creators to see if they want to collaborate with us. And everyone was just so helpful. It's like if they could, they would, So we had people from all over the world join us from other casts and other. It's just amazing to have American people help out with the stream. We had Loopy from Late Night Gaming helping out with the and Jeff Creasy from the Bottom Network help out with the PQ from Oslo. That was just amazing. And then we've had Beton, like I said, from Swooper Races help out with streams. And just that is also, that's not a thing maybe, but the way when you interact with other people in this space and in this community, there isn't rivalry. Not really. I mean, there's friendly rivalry, but there's no die-hard cutthroat competition. Everyone is willing to have fun. That's where we're here. Everyone seems to love what they're doing and just want to do more of it.
Yeah, and I really, really love how that goes through different levels of this game as well, of where community-wise you're willing to help out with, letting other people stream and joining in other people's streams, and content creators, like you're saying, Victor, is helping, but also that obviously the competitiveness of team building, which is something that you've been talking about in the cast before, that's one thing, but I really do enjoy that there seems to be even amongst the constant content creators and the really good players who are doing well on the competitive scene, they are there to share their knowledge as well.
Yeah.
In this game, which is something that is not, that is not
doesn't
very
need
common.
To happen. Yeah,
that doesn't happen in every game. Like you've got obviously the content creators who are doing deck tech videos talking about that, but then you've got people like Sarah, for example, in the UK, got his own Discord channel, who open for people to chat about what would you change in my deck, what would you do for that. I know Swoop Racers are doing a thing where you can pay them to do trainings and things, but there's all of these levels of people trying to help out, which is for such a tiny game that who is still yet is nearly mandatory for it to be. We can't have closed communities.
Yeah, no.
Even though I really like deck building in a smaller team, I really like that you can share knowledge among those teams.
Yeah, and even if you have been deck building in a smaller team or a large team for that matter, once that tournament you were working on is done, everyone is open with it.
Yeah.
Like interacting with the Bothans before, because leading up to their own huge event in Atlanta, they were, like they said themselves, they were in dark mode.
Yeah.
So they like, we can't communicate on our deck building at all in our server while we're doing this. And they were obviously working real hard on their decks. But even at the end of that dark mode, several of them were like, I hate being in dark mode. I want to talk about my cards. Like they were really itching to be able to talk to people about their decks. Yeah. And that's so different than what you see in some other competitive games, where it's very much a different thing. Of course, there's no actual money in this game. Prize money is very limited. Yeah. There is in the US all these 1Ks and 2Ks and even 5K events, but mostly,
it's nothing to speak of, really.
No, mostly that's just something you get on the side for having fun.
Yeah.
Like we're in it for the fun of it, and that's amazing.
One thing that I'd like to hear your guys' opinion about, and that is in terms of those things of where, there's always talk about the meta and the meta game. Now, obviously, when you do have an open community with people talking, my opinion is that the opinions tend to drift in the same direction.
Sure. There will be groupthink.
Would you say that, do you see any difference to other games or an evolution of those things in this game if you compare to, for example, if you would have, hypothetically, my only experience is through Game of Thrones, where you could very much see that the French people were building like this. The Italian people, they were always playing like this. And then when you would meet up once or twice a year on the European scene, there was always, these groups where you would expect, well, you have the Finnish group of the crazy guys who build Voltron decks out of nowhere, and then they make the top cut with that. Like, those are fun things, which I have experienced in other games, but I haven't seen this in Swoop yet, really. Is that because of the card limitation, the limitation of the card pool, or is it because the openness of the meta and the content creators having a richer voice in this?
I'd say there's probably more than one reason for this, but I think one of the most contributing factors, I don't think that with the way social media work today, and with the way content is created, I don't think any game has that anymore. I don't think you get that sort of insular local metas that are in that way, but you do get like the local meta in this place is slightly more to this, but there's not a complete innovation going on that is just local to one place, because if it's known in that place, it's going to be known globally. Like if you look at the Oslo place, there were lots of innovative decks there, but they obviously got known in the whole world afterwards. So you wouldn't stay insular, but you can see that maybe as a whole, Europe is usually slightly more control heavy, and the US is more tempo and aggression. But that's just broad trends. And you could see maybe like in Poland, they are more aggressive decks often. Like Polish meta is slightly faster than the rest of Europe. So you could see trends like that, but they aren't in the way of unknown things. It's not because they're playing decks we don't know of. They're playing the decks we know of. They're just favoring these ones over these ones.
And the game is also so new and young. So in terms of being loyal to certain deck types and colors, it's not something we've seen. It's not something that you talk about. Maybe on the Oslo scene was one of those things where you have, people like Alan, friend of the cast, who's like, stuck to blue, really like blue, really like, of course, there are people doing that. For sure. But because the game is so young, we haven't really seen those over time, I'm guessing.
No, exactly. You'd see people that specializes in things. Like Kevin is obviously playing a lot of Sabine.
Of course.
He's a Sabine expert in Sweden. And you will have other people that are very good at, like, obviously you've got Justin, KTOD Justin, who's probably the best Sabine player in the world. But he isn't playing Sabine now. He might be back on Sabine now, but he was playing Django for a while here. So the loyalty isn't super hard. In Thrones, with the lore there, a lot of people latched on to a fraction. Like people would play only Lannister or only Targaryen. You'd have complete countries that would, all right, everyone's playing Stark.
Exactly. It was like, you're in France. Well, so expect everyone to play House Stark. But
I don't think, even though Star Wars might actually have that kind of loyalty among fans, but it's to what? Well, are you loyal to the rebellion? Like you might have your favorites. You might think like you're very much a favorite of original trio, or you're a favorite of, like, who doesn't like Vader, but it's not the same thing as faction loyalty.
No,
I don't think. And the colors are very abstract. They aren't something that you would have with you from the actual media. There's just like,
you wouldn't say that blue is the control color, because it necessarily won't always be that.
For sure, but it certainly won't be connected to something you super like in the lore.
Exactly. Oh, you mean like that? Yes, of course.
So you might be, even if you were for somehow a person that is just super into one faction, kind of like you love everything Black Sun. Well, I mean, obviously, you're probably going to look at a lot of the yellow cards, but there are Black Sun things in red and maybe even in green,
Yeah, and you would see that when they released the double blue Hondo unit in set 4, that was blue. And I was like, is that why? I didn't expect Hondo to be blue, but it also just confirms that the blues are not connected to the lore.
That's not one thing, and they wouldn't bring out some aspect of what and who Hondo could be.
Well, I think what we can see a bit more in Sweden is because like a large community in Sweden is fairly small compared to other bigger countries. So where you see more here is you see these great individual players, like Stockholm has Kevin with his Sabine, so everyone is very prepared to fight Sabine, and they know that this is guy. If I go far into this tournament, this is a guy I probably need to face. And you can see like Skövde has great Bosk green players.
A couple of really good Bosk players.
And like comparing here in Gothenburg, the competitive scene isn't that big. it's more on the casual side, which makes that people brew a lot more their own stuff. We like this, so I will build this. They don't look as much at the meta and just copy paste.
I think that's what happened in Oslo as well.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, we said that we were going to do the first year of SWU here, but we sort of drifted into talking about the community aspects of the whole thing anyway. But just to wrap up the first year thing by looking a little bit forward, because if set 4 was like the culmination of the first year of SWU, then set 5 will definitely be the second year of SWU. For sure. So there have been a little bit of spoilers. So we have a recurring segment that we're trying out for the poll, which is called Super Laser Powered Spoilers. Because why not? Why not? So if everyone have you seen some of the spoilers?
Yeah.
I cannot say I've seen all because I don't know, but I've seen
quite a few.
Quite a few.
To say what they do, I have to see them. But
okay. But is there something that's kind of caught your eye, or that you feel might be something for you that you're interested in some way?
Yeah, so the newest spoiler card was Watto, right? So it's a blue unit that has an on attack ability that says an opponent chooses one of these. So you give an experience token to a friendly unit, or you get to draw a card. And this just screams Twin Suns for me. For a person that has played a lot of Commander, these cards are super good in that format. So it's super fun. That I don't know if they had Twin Suns in mind when they designed that card.
Could have been.
But it's just
certainly could have been.
Gonna build some vigilance decks now.
Yeah, could definitely be.
There's been, obviously the big theme is the Force, and we don't know 100% for sure exactly how it's going to work. We are just assuming that it's going to be one thing that you can either have or not have, and it doesn't limit to one player having the Force and the other one not.
No,
both can be with the Force and have the Force.
Both you and me played the Star Wars LCG, where there was a Force struggle.
Yeah,
who will control the Force?
Which was one of the greatest things about that game.
Insanely cool.
Obviously, this is something different, and people who have played Keyforge says that this somewhat correlates to one of the effects there. I would say that's maybe a reach, but it's interesting, and we'll see. It definitely opens up the design possibilities to make cards potentially very strong when you are with the Force, and it also demands a lot of balance in terms of how easy it is to give the Force, take the Force, remove the Force, and add the Force to you and your opponent. So obviously we have already seen some spoilers for some cards who are quite strong if you have the Force. That's the I would say that's the tipping point of set 5, to see how well is this designed, and how easy can you control and have the Force and get it back, and so on. But it's really interesting when I'm a lover of draft, and we see that there are bases who are common, who will appear the Force very often with the Force. So I'm really happy that they made that thought into the draft, into the limit segment of this draft pool. So you have a 28 base in each color, which basically has an effect that gives you the Force, right? So I really like that.
I'm really glad that they continue doing like set mechanics that defines the set. With every that makes limited draft or sealed, like every set feels different, new, and fun to experience with. Instead of do this is good because like it's good in Premiere or another, like how other card games do it. Here it's a whole new world to discover exactly. With a new set.
One thing that you had one of the spoilers, I was thinking one of the later ones, Victor, I was thinking about when I saw that. The 0 cost 1/1 Porg. Just want to mention that, really love it for once, but also super dangerous card.
Yeah.
Like this
Yeah,
is
they can be so
always,
broken. Can be so broken.
If you have any type of experience with card games and combos, you know that
Zero cost.
you know the key for unlocking the mystery of combos is zero cost cards.
Yep.
So
The
I just
infinite
hope
combo thing.
I just hope we won't sit here in the end of summer complaining about how the meta game has moved into this stupid porg combo and how everybody needs to chuck in chewies to eat the porgs.
I would love if there was a porg combo that could only be stopped by a shoey combo. that would make me happy. Well, yeah. If I had to pick something that I'm really excited about with the spoilers so far, I would go with the Stinger Mantis. Of course, the Stinger Mantis is actually looks like it could be a really good card. It's a 5 cost, 4 powered, 6 health spaceship, fringe vehicle transport, and when played, you may deal 2 damage to an exhausted unit. So that's just decent. That's good, you know. But it's the Stinger Mantis. And they haven't revealed anything yet. But if there is a Stinger Mantis, there's going to be a Carl Kestis.
Oh yes.
And I'm really excited about getting a Carl Kestis.
Yeah. So you're not excited about the Stinger Mantis.
I am excited about the Stinger Mantis, and I'm really excited to see how it will interact with Carl Kestis.
Yes.
So yeah. All right.
Finally, Sonja Die Fallen Order.
Right,
series
right.
in the
Exactly. Love those games.
And they haven't revealed anything yet, or maybe there's a like tiny bit of art on. Is it Darth Bane, right?
Darth Bane.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Darth Sidious.
Mm.
Aren't you seeing Darth Bane in some of the art of that, or is it
Yeah,
another?
I think it's the side of the edge of the display box.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just
yeah.
like this super weird angle where you just kind of see the helmet. It can be him, but if they do start using characters from that far away back, it's also super exciting to see in the game.
So time to reread the trilogy of Darth Bane.
I think so.
Time to revisit that.
That it's always time to revisit
Always.
that.
As soon as you end, starting over again.
Yeah. It's always a good one to do. All right, so that takes us over to community building proper, and we already talked a little bit about that. But let's dive into it for a little bit. Like we've talked about what the community can be and some of the highlights of it for us, but that didn't come out of nowhere. What do you think is the secret sauce? How do you make a community? How have people been able to make the community good? What is it that's been happening here to make it this good?
You want to start?
Yeah. So for me, so this game is the first thing that I organized myself. So talking with the shops, making sure that the events, you can see the events, come here. And it's been a learning experience for me. But I think I picked up some key stuff that like makes it good. And I think one of the most important thing is you have to see to what does the local community want for play. Are there more casual players? Are there more competitive players? Are there both? You need to cater to both bases there. So everyone can come and have fun. There's something for everyone. So we know that people really like playing drafts. So we set up to have bi-weekly play drafting. Some people want to play more constructed. Now we're starting a bit more with Twin Suns to get that going. But they also like to compete, but not on the highest level. So getting store showdowns going. So it's a lot of that. Also how you cater to every instance of that. So in draft, we have more competitive draft players. We have some really good ones that play with us. We have a league every set. So they play to win the league in the end. But we also have players that just want to come to have fun. And we don't want like the best players to only come and collect all the boosters and go. So you just spend money and lose it. We want the other players to have fun too. So that's how you set up pricing in a good way.
You make the pricing so it's not so top heavy.
Yeah, not so top heavy.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. I think you need to see the whole community, and you need to see what do they want.
Yeah.
I can only talk of experience from the Thrones community way back, of where we had, the Swedish meta was fierce. It was feared by other metas because we were so competitive and so good. But we also had a very, very good tournament scene in terms of casual players joining. You had players who, when we had our larger tournaments, they even joined the casual players who were, playing once a year, twice a year. They joined for the tournament because they really liked the atmosphere, the tournaments, in the side events, and that you got your money back. If you paid 300 Swedish krona, you got money's worth of pricing or other things when you joined.
Yeah, and I think that's important. But the thing you brought up there, Jacob, I think you missed one of the most important parts of it, and that, sure, pricing and all that, that's probably very important. But I think the way you meet people, the way you interact with people when you meet them for the first time, and how you do that, I think that's the key thing. I remember my first time going down to the Dragon's Lair basement to play a tournament for Game of Thrones, and I'd only played in my local with my best friends, and we only played Melee, the multiplayer format, kind of commander in Magic. So we played it that way, and I thought, because the game, they had announced that they were going to do a new edition for the game for the second edition. So I thought I'd try the first edition competitively once at least before they switched it over. So I went down to the store championship in Stockholm. Didn't know anyone that was playing there. I knew the store from other games, but I didn't know anyone playing Game of Thrones. Came down into the basement and met you guys, Jacob and other people. And it's like, hello. And the way I was greeted, and the way you guys embraced a new player, and even that late in the meta, everyone was like, awesome. You want to be with us? Oh, perfect. And everyone was happy to see a new player, and everyone was friendly. And like, I think my first game I sat down and started playing, I was so thoroughly beaten, and someone came up to me and you're playing the European champion, Rybak.
Oh yeah.
So don't feel bad. He just won the European Championship. He's pretty good. Like, that's all right. Yeah. Well, then it makes sense that he's demolishing me. And I did come up last in that tournament by a wide margin. But then there was a Sansa prize, like Sansa Stark always losing. So I got play mat for coming last. Yeah. And that's just the way everyone was like, oh, where are you living? Who are you playing with? Oh, you're playing Melee. We do too. Come visit us at this. And you were brought into the community. And I think that's something I've really brought with me. And the way I try to meet people in Star Wars at all times, like, I want to give that energy of, like, I'm happy that you're here, that you want to learn this game, that you want to be part of this community. And I think that's the most important thing. Like, just you share the energy and the love you have for the game with those people showing up. I think that's the what's always kept me in this game.
And that's exactly the environment you want to create for the players, and especially new ones coming in. Like, I think a lot of people will quit if the community is not good or nice, or it just feels bad getting there. You want everyone to have fun, really create that. And that's what makes people stick.
Otherwise, the community will just be what you would get if you were playing random people in a top cut in an online tournament, I would say. Right. I mean, nothing bad about that, and nothing bad about the competitiveness of making the cut all the time. Nothing against it at all. Just like,
you can have both.
You need to have both if you're building a community. You need to see the people who want to win. Everybody probably wants to win, but some people are really upset if they don't win.
Yeah.
And the people who are just fine with, right, I went 2-3, but I had fun. And I got promos, and I had great games, and I got to play my combo, or I got to play that card, or I'm deploying Dooku because I love Dooku. Like, you need
so many ways
to cater to all the whole spectrum of people there on that scene.
Yeah, there's always people just happy to play.
Yeah. And
I lost all games, but I had fun.
Exactly.
But there's
And
one
there need to be a place for them as well.
Yeah, there's one key component here for that to be able to happen, and those are the spaces that we play in.
Yeah.
And to be able to have spaces to play, most of the spaces we play games in are gaming stores, local game stores, and these guys, they are the unsung heroes here. Running a game store is not going to make you a millionaire. You're
probably not going to make you money.
You might not be able to live off of it even. It's rough. It's rough. The margins for this business is not very good. And for these things to continue and exist, and to provide us with the spaces to play and the product to play with, we need to acknowledge the work they're doing. The least you can do is be friendly. Always be friendly to your local game store. If nothing else, say thank you when you leave, and be a nice person to the person behind the counter, even if that person is a jerk to you because she is tired and had a long day and can't bother.
You need to think about that you're doing it in your free time. They're doing it to make a living, probably. Exactly.
And they're not making that much of a living off of it.
The second best thing that you can do is probably try to buy your products from them. Right.
Buy a booster.
Yes.
That's an easy
Please.
thing.
Don't complain that they are 10 kronor higher than the rest or whatever.
You're probably not paying to have your weekly play session. That's probably for free. So you need to think that, sure, I could buy this booster online or this booster box online for a bit discounted, a couple of $100 crowns, or if you're looking at euros or dollars, it'd be $10 cheaper or something maybe. But that's your rent. That's the rent for the space you're playing in.
How many hours are you playing without paying any money?
That's very cheap rented too, And it's not just rent, because if you are buying it from a local game store, the whole supply chain is going to get more. FFG actually makes more money, I think, from packs sold in game stores. I'm not 100% on that, but I think they get better margins with that kind of things. But that's just me making a guess here.
I've heard that LGSS makes most money from candy, drinks, and other products that you buy there.
So if you want to have this game alive and want to have a space, take care of your local game store. And when that local game store is like the ones that we see sometimes in this community, like Mana Torsk in Skövde, like Alpha Spel and Dragon's Lair in Stockholm, like Prisfyndet where I live in Uppsala, Mindsesh I'm sure in Gothenburg, or definitely Playoteket in Malmö. When they are taking care of you that well, and they're organizing and helping out with so much, come on, man. Give them a break.
Maybe it's controversial, but try to don't buy your games on Amazon. Try to support
your local scene in whatever way you feel appropriate. I'm not pressuring anyone, but I'm just think about it. Think about it. And I think that's Bezos doesn't need your money. He doesn't. But these guys
are just going to waste it on space travel anyway.
Exactly.
And it's not the cool type. It's not the cool type.
Exactly. It's the dick-shaped
stuff.
Ones, and
the ones. Definitely not the Star Destroyers.
No. Even though if you're going to waste money on something, space travel is probably the best one.
Probably yes.
but that's the side thing. I think that's actually as much as talking about community building, we're at GothCon right now. We're really happy to be here, and these kinds of conventions and gaming conventions of all sorts are just amazing. It was pivotally me finding this game and getting into it, and I think a lot of other people have been to gaming conventions a lot, and I think that's the thing. Try it out. You have a good time. It's fun. Anything last that we'd like to add before we close this out?
Yeah, maybe just some fun. So we had 4 sets. So how would you rank them?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Oh yeah. Going back to the year of Svu here.
Yeah, so maybe you can limited and premiere.
All right.
So
Right.
I mean, you can do eras as well
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
want. Then you have 3 ways to.
right. I can start with limited, and in limited, I'm gonna say draft because I have only played in pre-releases for one of the 4 sets. One of them was intentional, one of them was unintentional. I just couldn't go to a pre-release, but I did pre-release for the second set. I just don't like sealed. That's my personal opinion. I just, when you're sitting and opening 6 packs and 2 of them are in the rare slot, you get 2 Mascanatas and you sit next to a player who opens Poe and Wrecker. It's
Tim
like
opening 5.
it's like
Yes.
okay, it's fun because you get to see new cards.
Yeah.
That's okay. But from a limited perspective in draft, I would rank actually maybe it's the new set being new, but I really like the new set. Jump to Lightspeed is probably on top in terms of draft for me. I really like how that one has gone, and then it's probably a split between the first set and the third set for me for really good drafts, and then the second set is probably last for me.
Yeah, I can agree with that ranking. Maybe just because set 4 is so fresh.
Yeah.
Having such a blast playing draft and limited in set 4. But it's set 4 or 1, and then third and last second.
And with that, I think the second is still good. It's just that I think we played the shit out of that.
We played a lot of that.
It was just CADs and rays all over the place.
Blast that ray.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I for limited, I still think the first set is probably the most fun I've had. I haven't played that much limited in the new set yet. I'd probably rank it the second highest. It might actually shift as I play it a little bit more because I do love the way the pilot interactions work and all that. So I think it's probably up there. And I think the third set being so dominated by Anakin just was a poor experience for me. I thought that the third set was not as fun drafting, and I was really relieved to hear that this fourth set was good. And I tried it once now, and I had a good time.
Yeah.
And I played a lot of pre-releases for all of the sets, and with pre-releases, I can agree with what Jakob's saying. It's not the most fun format. I think it's a brilliant way to explore the new cards.
And for new players.
Yeah, and for new players, it's awesome. But I don't think it's the more fun format in limited for me. I do like drafting a lot more. I drafted the second set a ton, and much like the third set, it had a little bit of problem because CAD and Ray was so much better than the other ones for draft and limited. So I think it goes set 1, set 4, set 2, set 3 for me for limited. What was the other thing we were ranking overall in constructed?
Yeah, we can say with set meta.
Yeah.
Maybe it's better.
All right, set meta. I'd say, and this is probably very controversial, I think set 2 is by far the best set when it comes to what cards it brought into the actual meta for me. I think that Smuggle is the best mechanic in Star Wars. I love that kind of mechanics in all card games I've ever played, and I think Smuggle is just a brilliant mechanic. Having that already in set 2 blew me away. Like that's the thing that sort of mechanic is introduced after a couple of years in most games, and they had it in set 2, and then you had some incredibly fun and interactive cards that do a lot without being broken. So you got Poe, you got Wrecker, you got Snook, you got there's so many brilliant cards in set 2 that are really strong without ever being broken, that are fair in a weird way.
Was Crate in 2?
Crate Dragon was in 2. Crate Dragon. These are fair cards in their own way, but they're really strong and they're really making an impact on the game and on the meta and the way you play the game and the way you play around them. So I really loved set 2. I don't understand why people are so down on it because I thought it was absolutely crazy good. So that's my favorite set of all of the sets. when you're just looking at the cards that go into decks. It's not my favorite meta, maybe, but it's my favorite set. And then set 1, obviously, really good, really, really good. And set 3 is shaping up to be almost as good. Unfortunately, we had a little bit of a kerfuffle there with Django getting slightly too many good cards, so we had to rearrange the meta a bit. But I think now that that's done, I do still think that a lot of the cards that were brought in by set 3 have huge potential. Unfortunately, set 3, I mean, it's the prequel era. I'm almost 50 years old, and I'm of the opinion that the prequels are the worst era in all kinds of ways. I love Clone Wars, the animated series. That's really good. But the 3 prequel films are just horrendous and sacrilege. And that's how I feel about it. And everyone can hate on me for that. But that's obviously some of the later films that come now is maybe even worse. But as an era, the prequel era is just nasty things. So I don't like that, and I don't like set 3, and I didn't play a lot of the cards. I love the meta. As soon as Boba was banned, the meta during set 3 was amazing. Probably the most fun I've had in Constructed. But I wasn't playing a whole lot of set 3 cards. There were a couple of them in the deck, maybe, No, set 3 was unfortunately a bit of a downer, I think, for me. How do you guys feel
About set 3?
about anything, all the sets, ranking them in
the
Constructed?
Well, I think it's a little bit. The first set, I'm really happy that I chased most of the cards because they are really strong. And then the level of the power cards have definitely gone down, or it's maybe equalized, or maybe a bit more even. And we've seen some really strong rare cards in some of the sets, like the Green Maul.
Green Maul was amazing.
Really, really good. Wrecker, super good. And I really like that from a community perspective. But we were discussing it before going into the recording, me and Gustav, that it makes the display prices a little bit weird. When you want to chase buy a booster box or buy a display, is it really worth it?
Yeah.
I finally opened my first showcase this set in a booster box. I opened a Rio.
Yeah.
And it's not even worth half a booster box in pricing. So you don't open booster boxes in this game for value.
No.
You open it because you like that smell of new cards.
It's mostly a sensation in the nose.
It's definitely. And that's my opinion. Maybe I'm drifting, but set wise, I've enjoyed how the power level has been in these sets. I don't think any of the sets have been really hideous, like in terms of power level. It's been disappointing on the 3rd set, maybe 4th set. What do you have? You have some cards that are worth the red cards are worth a little bit over 20 euros, but it's nothing in even close to the Vaders and the Lukes from set 1.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if I feel disappointed in that, actually. For me, it's fine, actually.
I think with time, prices might stabilize, because if you look at new Vader Pilot, the legendary card, I don't think that's actually a worse card than the Green Vader. I think they're both amazing strong cards, and they're both legendaries. So for me, they should be, in the end, when we look back at this in a couple of years, I think they will be similarly priced.
Yeah, I think the versatility of that card for once that's really good. Like, you can pay 3 to get a really, really good pilot out, and then it's just a vanilla 7/7 for 6, like otherwise, which is good.
That's
Like, very often you would play suckers. You would play a 6/6 for 5 in suckers without Forlom. So it's like, I agree with you. With time, it's probably gonna gain value. So
Yeah, and for me, set 4, it's a bit up in the air for me because I haven't competed yet. And when you knew the ban was looming, it's like, I can wait a bit more getting into it. So we'll see where that will end up. I did have a blast before it was released, where you got to look at the cards and try to build them and see what could work and couldn't work. But like all that prep work was kind of in vain, because now the meta is a bit more open, but that's also super fun to see what will happen. But I will leave set 4 a bit up in the air. Set 2 is kind of like on the other side, I mained Hand Yellow, and that's my absolute favorite deck I played in Star Wars. And I switch around a lot, so I haven't played him since set 2. But when Boba Fest started in set 2, I kind of zoned out. Just also because Boba was strong into everything I like to play.
Yeah.
So he was strong into anything.
Even control, but
we actually had a comment about that in the comment section about just how Boba's armor put a lot of people off probably from set 2, and that's probably a good assessment.
But I really liked the meta in set 1, even though we didn't have so many leaders and so many decks to build. You saw in card games, you often talk about how it flows through a set. Like you start with a bit aggro, and then mid-range gets a hold of aggro, and then control comes in, and that flow was pretty perfect. In the end, it was a good rock, paper, scissors, I think, in set 1.
Yeah, for sure.
In set 3, it wasn't as good, but it was still super fun. It might have been that Han blocked control a little
bit too well,
but there were tons of decks to play and tons of fun decks to play in that. So
even though most of them weren't control.
So if I have to say one, it's set 3, and to take the other part, Clone Wars rocks.
and that's a good thing, right? That there are so many different opponents.
I was young enough that I can still believe that there are good movies. But there's also everything around the Clone Wars, around the movies there, elevates them to a higher standard. Clone Wars is probably my favorite era. The originals, favorite movies, but favorite era, Clone Wars, definitely.
And I love that there's a set for everyone. Like everything doesn't have to be my favorite. I hope there are lots of people out there that would say that set 3 is their favorite. That'd be the best, But yeah. All right. I think it's time for us to round up from here. But this was fun.
Yeah. Have to do this again.
And hopefully next time we can actually get an audience in here if we do this next year. But we had to actually lock the door because we'd be really hard to have people come in and out as we were doing this.
And also my son would be running out of the door.
Yeah, we got an audience.
We did. Well, hope you enjoyed, and if you're listening to this afterwards and catching it not live, I hope it makes sense anyway. All right. Thank you so much, and may the force be with you.